Okay. Well, this last presentation is about the title is Beyond Obscurities and Exclusion, and we are going to focus on the main motivation we have dealing with this topic with clear language all this afternoon, and all you know how it's important clear language is not. We have seen in the previous presentation how the relevancy for education, the relevancy for the citizenship, and other communities in and other problems. But I think that clear language, as we know in this workshop, is not only something related to coding. We have many other dimensions like the context and the relations with in the information, to have reliable sources and completeness, updated information, accuracy, relevance, or other, for instance, the intended purpose of a text is important to take into account, because it's not the same when you have a commercial text or a political text and you are trying to discover or to know what is the clear language there. We are going to focus in language codification for improve the understanding. Specifically, we are going to focus in the Spanish language and in our experience in the last few years from the 2018 to now. And what have we learned during this period? As you know, we start the project because we have a problem with many administrative procedures, and we don't know how interpret, how understand, or we are reading all the day, and we are in the university. Why we have so many problems to understand a web page? This is the main focus at the beginning. And we have some challenges. There are some challenges that are related to the Spanish context. For instance, as you see here, there is a decreasing reading literacy in Spain, but also in all the Europe, in Europe or the OECD. If we don't have a reading literacy, the clear language is changing, is evolving, because we need even simpler or another strategies to deal with the problem. With clear language, there are some misconceptions. For instance, there is a problem with a confusion between summarizing and clarifying. Many people when say, well, we have this problem with reading literacy, maybe if we take out remove some information, the text is going to be easier to understand. Well, it's going to be another text. It's not going to be anymore the original text, because it's going to have a loss of information. So removing complex information is not a goal. We have to make as understandable as we can the information that we have, not removing. It is not real that we can analyze the clarity of language only based on syntax and words on the text. And classical metrics used to do that. Classical metrics have many problems. Some of the problems was that it was really naive approach that only take into account the number of letters in the word, the number of words in the sentence, the number of sentences in the paragraph. But well, they work pretty well, because it's a good proxy, but it's not all that we have to consider a difficult text, difficult to understand text. An example we can see with the most reliability index used in Spain, that is Fernandez Huerta, was developed 70 years ago. The population in the 50s, in the middle of the 20th century, it's quite different to the population that we have today. And we are using this reliability index again and again, but this population was only with the students, not even with the whole population. So it's not representative of the population. We have, you can consider other type of tests, because in clear language, only people try to use, for instance, medical consents, banking investment contracts, law. But there are another type of texts that are relevant also. For instance, look this screenshot of the instruction of control, remote control. There are many clues that say that this is not easy to understand, because there are a very specific vocabulary only used for this brand. There are not representative image and icons. The layout is messy. There is a lot of lack of context. And there is calls like this ST is 2, is 3 to other documents. And this broke the reading flow, and it's going to be more difficult to understand. There is another things that we can to consider that are not only the syntax, the vocabulary. For instance, how is designed the text? How is structured the text? For instance, you can see that there is some guidelines that talk about this, but there are not many parameters, not many attributes that they propose to analyze for a design point of view the text. We did a study with many, I don't remember how many, around 30 parameters from the HTML tags and the CSS. And we found that we can classify in easy text and difficult text 80% of the text, only with these tags, without the semantics, without the vocabulary. So it's very important for understanding a text, how is structured the text, how is displayed the text. We have another problem. As I said, they're only to counting words, sentences, and letters is not enough. There is other proposal saying that we have to take into account other elements, like the number of adjectives, the number of proper nouns, of casual connector, for instance. But we don't know how important are every parameters is. Maybe it's more important the number of nouns or the number of proper nouns. I don't know, because there are not only there are local studies to know the weight of these parameters. Also, we have in the recommendation for clear language some of them that are contradictory. For instance, this one, we have a guideline, this one, UNE, that said parentheses, bracket, and unusual signs should be avoid. And in information for all, they said use parentheses to give info. So the contrary, what happened there? And this is a problem because these heuristics is what a person think that is the reality, but maybe it's not the reality for all the domains, all the population, or all the media when we publish the documents. For instance, we use we try to analyze another media, for instance, the panels in museum or the panels in natural sites, and we found that that people doesn't understand many of these panels because it's not addressed for the target population. Maybe if you go to a museum, you don't need a master in history or a master in natural science, but the question is that in fact, when you go to some of these panels, you need a background in these subjects. Another thing we found is that when we try to use classifiers to know the weight of the parameters, we found that in every study, these parameters are different. This can be, the reason for this can be maybe you have done is not a good sample of all the panels, a good sample of or the number of text you have is not big enough. We have been working in e-government information for some time, and again, the attributes that we found that are relevant are different. For us, this is to overcome this problem, because when you do a study, you want that your results are scalable, you can reuse your model in other domains. But we need to know what is the difference between one domain and other to have different results in different domains. In this study, we collect some public administration website, and we select two websites that they try to simplify the information of these websites in their own website. There is other problems that we have been trying to cope with, like this. There is a lack of editing tools, usable tools to deal with this corpora in an easy way. We need all the time a good corpora, but there is not good corpora in Spanish. Or I don't know any corpora in Spanish. We have been talking with many people, with many experts, and for instance, Klaus Candusi in Capito is in Austria. It told us to use an approach that they use with the German language. Is to use the learning material for common in the to have inside the common European framework of reference languages. But in Spanish, it's not working. We don't see a correlation between clear language and this framework. Well, another expert in natural language, they told us of New Zealand, Newsila is a corpus manually made from news, but it was translated automatically many years ago to Spanish, and it's not working. It doesn't give good result in Spanish. We try another approaches, for instance, with volunteers that and looking the eye movements and eye tracker, but we are working still in this line because there are some problems to do in a good way. There are other resources that need to be evaluated. Some of them is the familiarity term. Familiarity is how common or how unstable is a term, a word for the population of for a specific population, for instance, all the Spanish. In this case, we have many lists, and we try to use one or the other, and we saw that if you have different collections, different corpus, the results are very different with one list or the other. Maybe this is part of the problem, that we need a previous analysis of the resources before to try to study the clear language in Spanish. And as I said, the challenge of the lack of usable tools is because there are some tools that can do an analysis, but usually you only have some generic recommendations, and you don't have are pretty general. Even in this service that is focused in administrative language, is very general, all the recommendation. We try to overcome this problem with a project called ComfortText. That is a project that takes the output of MidOLEG and in a website try to see the web in a more usable way based on an accessibility tool that is called Wave, that it has been out there for a long time, and the result we think is good enough, but we are working also still on it. Well, as we have seen in the previous presentation, we are seeking all the time. Sometimes is, well, maybe generative grammars are solutions, but there are threats in generative grammar also. But as we know, there are some problems to communicate information, but in our case, as we have seen in the previous presentation, is working more or less. Well, in the previous studies, maybe with June it's now different, but in our previous study, the performance it wasn't good enough. Why? Because of course, with clear language, good text, a more clear text, but this text don't use to follow some of the guidelines that we can found in the literature, and maybe the literature is wrong. It can be, or maybe the approach is not good enough. We don't know. But in the previous presentation, it looks that it's working. So I think it's a good way to go with this. We have used also this AI tools to create lists, for instance, obtaining technical terms from the Wikipedia, or we have used, as I said, with the prompts. Lesson learned. Well, we think that clear language enhances user experience. If you try to move the students or the learner with a better language, you are going to have better results. And this is not only for education, it's for everything. Even from some news that we can see in the newspaper that there are many experts around, and clear language can facilitate the dialogue. Many times we think that that even when AI can hinder complex argumentation, because there are a problem now with argumentation in many in information communication. This Spain is a good support to obtain clear language text in clear language. Understanding requires simplicity, but as I said, it's not only NLP variables, because we are dealing with a social phenomena, and social phenomena are multifaceted in their definition. There is a need to develop tools, corpora, and linguistic resources, and to incorporate generative grammars in a supervised way. The problem maybe with generative grammar is that it's very easy to only follow what at the beginning you check what the ChatGPT is saying, but after 2 or 3 days you stop to being critical, and this is an error. Generative grammars have to be supervised. It's not only with a critical approach to the result. Of course, there are other research lines, like the emotional impact of images and video in reliability understanding, that there is a relationship between these images and how people try to understand the text. And also, nowadays, clear oral communication is more and more important. We have to only not to focus in clear text, but also in clear oral communication. And we have done some works on it. This is all on my part. Sorry for all the delays that I have today. If there are any questions, I can answer.
Thank you very much, Jorge. So as I don't know whether we make it clear, but Jorge is the coordinator of the CLINFO project, and he has made clear a lot of the problems we are facing in the project. Does anyone want to make a question? If not, I can say something, because there was in the first presentation, or in the presentation from Caterina and Modestos, something that I find very interesting to deal with the problem of clarity in language or clarity in information. She mentioned the importance of empathy in the communication process, or the empathy. Often we try to focus and to see the clarity of an information, the clarity of a text. But sometimes the problem is not only, so we try, so to say, make it as an object, to evaluate the object of that. But sometimes the thing is in the interaction. So the interaction may so the role of emotion and the role of empathy in general that makes that the communication is effective or not. So in the presentation of Nieves about the to be or not to be of information, sometimes the point is about whether the communication path is open or closed. And when we get this empathic connection, then we can make that something that may look like difficult or obscure. Is like in Pentecost. Suddenly, everybody gets to understand. You know the legend of Pentecost, so that the Holy Spirit comes and they keep on talking in their own language, and suddenly everybody understands. So this idea of the empathy, I think, I don't know, because actually it's much easier to say, okay, I have here the text, and then I try to analyze. I do something with the object, but sometimes we lose. I have the feeling that we lose the idea that information is a process. Communication is a process. It's not that I send you something, you get it, and that ball is not the communication. Is the game of change. Of course, when we have to deal with the information or the communication for a whole population, then we are in trouble. But I think that the systemic perspective, for example, I think I mentioned Geer's theory of language, of developing an effective cooperation in the communication process, or also the Luhmann theory of the systemic view of also communication, that there is a sharedness in the change of information. All this idea of sharing, this systematic view, I think is something is being missed. But it's a feeling. I don't know what you think. And I don't know whether you can do something with that idea of the empathy.
I agree. I agree that, but you see, when you teach in the classes, you always, it's not only to repeat year after year the same discourse, to explain the same things. You are reading the students' eyes, the faces, and you change your example, you change your everything, the organization of the discourse, to match with the audience. If you don't put some, for example, some enthusiasm, or say, if you only read, you see when you see these documentaries in the TV that are with this monotonous voice, that you said, I don't understand anything. It's good for siesta, but it's not it's not good for understanding. You need this empathy with the things that you are saying, and to read to the people is I think that there is an interrelation for communication that is not only to say the same text is not going to convey the same information always, because the way you convey this information, the medium is important as well.
Yeah. So Maria, Nieves, please.
Yes, I was just listening to your presentation and the comments by Jose Maria, and I think it's not a question of being empathetic, sorry, because sometimes what they want to do by not using clear language is create exclusivity. So I think there is something that lies at the bottom of that, which is the access to the democratic access to knowledge. For example, what you said about the panels in museums, it depends on the readability or the clarity of language, depends on what is exhibited, and the type of exhibition and the public this exhibition is addressed. So, for example, a contemporary painter who is difficult to understand by most of the people has got these incredibly complicated panels similar to, for example, when you're tasting wine that you don't understand a single word apart from I like or I don't like. But it's all this flowery story that, okay, so what are you telling me? But then you go to the exhibition of the Berlin Wall that is explained to everybody from the 20s to the fall of the Berlin Wall, and everybody understands the panels. So we are creating with these things, we are creating a divide in society between cultivated people who are able to understand this painter and what we say about him or her, and the rest of the public who are just interested. Oh, I went to an exhibition about the Berlin Wall and it touched a piece of it. That's
Yeah,
my
but
comment.
mhm. Yes, that's absolutely. But at the same time, I think that Jorge also put an idea at the beginning, and is that okay? We can make it clear, but then there is also the other problem. So we are losing information, and what happened? So we cannot be losing information all the time. It's like we cannot be detached from trying to cultivate, for example, the population. So if I degrade also the level in which I explain something, then
Yes,
I don't
I
make
agree.
people
I
learn
agree.
something. But I think it's a problem of our time also that that the education is not. I don't know if it's saying intensive enough, but I think the media, in a way, is educating people. The social media is educating people. So when we consider education altogether, all the things that are around the person throughout their lives, all that is educating, and all those means around the people are educating lesser, are not creating, so to say, or are not facilitating the democratic citizen. The citizens needs to know something. It's like in 1984. In 1984, the language A is promoted so that the people gets to know less, can speak about lesser things. So what happened in the end, if we want a clear language for that people in Oceania, with the new speak, we make a clear language, but then in the end we can only go for buying breath and nothing else. So this is an extreme situation, but I think if you take a look to the trends, I'm a little bit worried.
Me too.
Teresa?
See,
Yes.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been very interesting. My background, Maria Teresa Pajares. Nice to meet you all. And my background is on rhetoric, and I've been 20 years teaching teaching students for translation and interpreting. There was a moment in which I had to face the question of which kind of Spanish should I teach? Which kind of Spanish should they translate? Right? And then there was a time in which, and I think still this happens, in which there was a confusion between neutral Spanish, the one used by speakers for news, for example, and speakers for all Latin America and Spain. And the term by the time was neutral Spanish. And I think there is a difference that is worth, I think, presenting and bringing up here between general Spanish and specialized jargon. I think this is very, very important because clear language and general language are not the same. but they're very close. And on the other hand, specialized language, I think, is very well understood, almost intuitively, by all users, by all speakers, when they are at the museum or when they are learning something new from the laws, from medical stuff, or from technical or scientific texts. So I think this new language, how was it called by Orwell? This new lingua, right?
New speech. New speech was called.
That's right,
New
a new speech. That's right. No wonder you are worried about that. Because it's
Yeah,
new.
because the other language.
It's twisting concepts, but there is something that's another matter, right? That's a philosophical matter that has to deal with logos and the crisis of language nowadays, right? I think that's very important, but it's a different matter, I think. But in the subject that we are not touching, I think that clear language should be generally understood. That's right, and should be really separated from specialty models of language, from specialty jargon. And I think, again, the speakers know that. And sometimes, since all the presentations have spoken about that already, sometimes there is a lack of information, as he said, as Jorge Luis said, okay, that sometimes robs some of the content that is important. It takes out some complexity that may be very important to understand. So, so I think it's a matter of terms, okay? Una cuestión, unos términos, ¿no? Cuestión de términos, yes? Classical, eh? Pero general and clear should be very close together, I think. And I think we need to have this in mind. And there are other methods for making this.
Yeah.
Let me finish this. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. A matter of terms, as I said, okay, and between general and clear, right? And the fact that even the second thing is that a cultivated person, a normal user, a medium user of language, wants to be more cultivated when he tries to understand panels at the museums, right? And he struggles to understand some legal text. So this, I think a normal user wants to scale a bit its language, which is called culture also. I don't know. What do you think about this?
So you mean that the striving to understand is also an important function in going to read something that is not exactly at your level, but it would increase or it would improve your.
I think so. But as Maria Nieves Mingo said, it depends on the addressee. That's very important. You need to adapt to the addressee, but you can go lengths on making them to make this little effort. If no a matter of legal thing that is very urgent is involved. I mean, when there is a matter of just raising up their culture and not risking jail, for example. Yes.
Yeah, but as regard the jargons, I also was thinking to recall that George Orwell idea of the other language, because he posed like the Newspeak was a project, and there was three kind of languages. The language A is the one that I mentioned that has lesser and lesser sounds. The second was the jargons that are separated from each other absolutely, so that people from one jargon cannot understand anything from the other. And the third is for the political, so for the Kwakwa speaking, as I say that by remembering. I don't know exactly the long time ago I read it, but it was something like that. Kwakwa speaking, like a dog. For the politicians, that you can speak for 1 hour, half an hour, 1 hour without saying anything. And I think we have that the danger of developing in that line, because the separation between the disciplines in a way is something that we also try to avoid or to overcome in the project. So of developing the overarching understanding of a transdisciplinary framework. Because
I understand that. I fully understand that. It's my concern is that it's not well understood or well conveyed to the user, right? Well conveyed to the user the fact that there is a general grammar, okay, understandable and comprehensive for all, yes, and there is also specialty jargon, which is very much needed. Because general grammar in general has different meanings. See? It's polysemical. Natural language is polysemic, right? But jargons are univocal. That means that there is only one concept. That means only one thing. And that is something that has cost many centuries of thought and specialization.
Yeah, so the problem of a specialization is of course a big deal, and it's a pity that we are not all in zeros and can philosophically wander around these problems about these things. Jorge, Modestos, Jorge, Sonia can do it right now, walking by the seaside in the Aegean. So please philosophize for us, and I hope you get better, Jorge. And bringing all together, or to not making it longer, because we are much longer than expected. So we have other opportunities. As you see, the GlossaLAB Workshop doesn't stop. But I think we had at least met some of our goals of showing what we are working in. So in what kind of results we are on board. We are on board of interesting results, and also a lot of work that we have to carry out. So in the next phase of the workshop, that will be in October, we will have more information about part of our program, because if you remember, when I told you we have like two sides, one concerns the information, the quality of information, and the mapping of information. The other is about coping with information, and that's in one of the projects that is being evaluated, and the results of the evaluation that will be in July. So it may happen that in the other phases, either in Colombia or more probably in Munich, we will have the opportunity to launch, to kick off also that project, because if it starts, it will start like in September or October, no, Jorge?
Yes, I think so. I'm not sure, because it depends.
So,
yes.
So that means then we may know better so about our horizon, but we have enough horizon, as we have seen. So all of you have shown very, very interesting. Ways to go. You have indicated so what way we have to walk through, and we will do it. So we don't know in what where we will end, but we will walk, and we will walk together. So thank you very much, all of you, and we will also let you know if this is being recorded, so how we will be deliver it.
Congratulations, by the way, on the complexity of what you presented of this GlossaLAB, I think is, and well, everything, the two projects are just fantastic. It's a tour de force, intellectual tour de force. Congratulations, truly.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very much. So then, see you in the next occasion, and enjoy the summer. We keep in touch, and remember that that if you so for the not for the abstract, for the articles to be sent for its publication. So the official date is until the 20th, but the 20th is after tomorrow. So we will have more days. So we will have one extra week because for the whole track, for the artists all together, it will be the 20th. But for the workshops, for the separated workshops, we will have a little bit more time. So we have 1 week extra. Okay. So we will be ready to get your works, your papers. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you.
See you.